So Saffron Housing were never really meant to let this place with all of the. I mean, the chimney is now being demolished, but it's uncapped, so it's let a lot of moisture in. Probably mold has been growing back there as well. There is no fireplace, but there is a vent inside of it. Now, it's called Saffron Housing Trust. And it's because it's a charity. And the one thing that charities are not allowed to do is profiteer. And in every way, shape, or form, you could say that they're not profiteering. But to let a property in conditions where the Housing Act states that you are not allowed to let a property in this manner is profiteering, because the reason I think what Saffron have done is they didn't want to pay a tax. This building was empty for a year. And then they obviously or may have got a tax bill come in that said you now owe for the 6 months. I think 6 months you're let off of paying council tax. Then after 6 months, you begin to pay a tax. So they really quickly hurried to find someone, and therefore it was someone who's homeless, someone maybe on benefits. You get this squalor. Then you move in, and then it becomes, what was it they said to me on the phone? How come it's taken you so long to find these problems? It's sort of like mocking in a way. Another thing that they do that they profiteer on is they put solar panels on the building. They include the solar panels into the rent, but they also take the energy from the grid. Now, when I've checked, I'm paying full amount for energy. So if I'm paying full amount for energy, I'm paying Saffron what the energy grid would charge me anyway. From what I understand, it's something like, I don't know, it's the same as what it was, 50 something pence, standing charge, all the rest of it. So I'm paying no different to what I would pay a grid, to be honest. None of them will let me see any of the, what do you call it? They won't let me see what's being generated by the sun or anything. Apparently, I have no right to know that information, and the energy company won't tell me it. I did inquire what I had to do in order to change from OVO to go with someone else. And then they began to, my bill went up. My energy bill went up. Again, because I feel that it's because I said that I was going to leave, and they've got some sort of deal with OVO. Again, how can you profiteer off of your tenants by giving them the exact same energy bill as what it would if you didn't have solar panels? Then secondly is, how can you charge that much money for the solar panels and include it into rent and charge for money? Yeah. That's double profit. Mm-hmm. So there are so many things in the, Paul said in the beginning that it was all about the Housing Act, and then when we got outside at the back, he's a housing officer, or no, environmental health officer. Yeah. You can't get into it, but the window at the back there is accessible. And in front of Paul, there's a massive, someone has melted the corner of the window, and it comes all the way through this side. Someone has melted straight through the plastic of the window. So again, double glazed windows made of plastic. People are melting through the side of them. I don't know. This is weird. I called this in March. Yeah. I was here in February and came in March. And then I had to start hunting around for things because it stank. There was a smell. It's still here to this day. Asbestos that hasn't been taken care of properly. But yeah, this window's, the lock is broken on it. And all Saffron said in front of Paul Clark from the council was, yeah, we'll just put a new lock on it. So it's okay to have a whopping hole in it. They're not going to do anything about that. They'll just change the lock. But this has been called in since March. They've had over nearly a year to fix it and haven't bothered. This is what I'm on about. This is the type of situation. And I think I feel that this is a get me back for the past. Because Saffron were charging a service charge off of people, and I shone a light on that. Boy, they didn't like that back then. Boy, they were very angry. I mean, they had to reimburse everybody the service charge. Again, a housing trust, because it got up to a board meeting with me, and there was this one fella there at the CEO, I believe it was, begged me for this problem to go away, that I not to turn up to that board meeting. And stupidly, I didn't. Now, again, if you want to understand something about a charity that is not allowed to profiteer, what would you call that? Taking a service charge but not delivering a service.
Yeah, that is stealing.
That is profiteering. There you are. That's straight up profiteering. And then fast forward many years on, and they're still doing it. They're now doing it in a different way, where they'll let a building with a lot of health concerns in it, and I think that they tried to get away from paying the tax.
Yeah.
Oh God, we're gonna have to pay this tax here. Oh, let's get someone who's homeless in there. Let's move them in. They're usually thick as shit. It's all discriminative, all of it. And then let's refuse to clean the property in the first place, so there's not really much cleaning done. And when I was speaking to the guy about, this is your fault because you have let it go this long without doing the repairs. We have over 3,000, 6,000 houses, whatnot, and we've got do you know we have 6,000? Thank you. Because you just answered the very thing that you've got way too many houses and you don't know how to look after them. Well, yeah, do you know how much it costs us? So you don't charge a rent. What's the rent for?
Okay. That's the rent is for that.
I thought the rent was for upkeep. I know with your lax ability to do anything about it, and I try and figure out where their issues come from. Well, they've got loads of workmen, right?
Yeah.
And ladies, individuals, workforce.
Yeah.
Bit too strong because it's the word force there. And they come in and do a shit-ass job, or they get somebody else to do it who's not qualified for the job. But they don't really care about that, because then it keeps them into a job. And then they can say, well, we're going to need this much for workers. We're going to need this much for workers. And then not having a workforce and them not having any buildings to fix, but having a workforce and them not fixing the buildings in the first place is discrimination towards people on low income, anyone that's homeless, anyone on benefits, anyone who's disabled. Because these are the type of individuals that they got to look after in society. And then when I read their letter that they are all for people who are disabled.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because you can abuse them. You want disabled people in your property so that you can just ignore them.
Yeah. Tell them that it's different than what they think. That there's no problem, even though there is.
And then when I had the council round, he went under here. Well, this has already been painted with damp paint. The mould, which Paul's got on pictures, is in here. And that whopping great big hole over there, which I filled. And the guy tried saying that they filled it. No, that's tissue. That's kitchen roll in there that's been painted over with some glue to make it go hard. Yeah, it's a bodge for now. But if anything, it's going to stop the mould from coming back. Sorry, that took my breath away. The smell is still there. Whoa, don't like the smell of that.
Yeah.
And the guy that came round with the council officer, excuse me, that is really strong.
Yeah.
That does not smell great. Nor does it on the wall behind me either. That window where the hole is, there's an awful lot of mould there. And he had no idea in the beginning. He had no idea. I haven't looked. I don't know what the problems are here. But he knows to inform Paul with panic when he goes into the bathroom. Don't touch that, Paul. There's asbestos there, Paul. Paul, that is asbestos. That's asbestos bitumen, Paul. Paul, that is asbestos bitumen in a bathroom. But it's okay to have vulnerable people inside a property. It's okay to have children in that. But it's not okay for a council officer or you yourself to pull that back.
Yeah.
which I don't see that on a report anywhere.
Exactly.
So how do you know that that contains asbestos?
That should be questioned as well.
And again, should the building be let considering those tiles were down?
Yeah.
And they tried palming it off that these things were already, you know, as something that I've done. Then explain the photographs in 2020.
Yeah.
I came here this year, February. So, and they are in a picture in 2020.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how is that anything to do with me? So, they just have not wanted to do any of the work, I think. And I think that all they're about, and they call themselves a charity, that they just want to profiteer off of people who are less fortunate or on low income. And you hear people crying out for council houses and stuff like that. I don't know about that. They're built with poison. Constant poison that is either A, not documented in any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
The rodents, just, you know, they've dealt with a past rodent issue here. And they've removed the animals, it's alright. They've removed the, you know, they've dealt with the rodent infestation, but left all the shit up there.
Yeah.
It's like a 50-year-old hamster cage with that much.
Yeah.
And when I was speaking to the guy, he was like, no, it didn't look like much in there anyway. That's only a little bit.
So is it their stand? That's horrible if it is.
But then to be up there and not put in insulation.
Yeah.
And again, I think that the reason why they haven't put in insulation here to what the government recommendations are is because there are solar panels on the building. So of course there are going to be, you wouldn't see behind that cupboard there with that massive hole in the works. It goes on through to the outside, which I filled up with silicone because they just were not doing anything about it. They still haven't done anything about it. Paul goes beside it because the guy told him to go beside it because he knows that there's damp paint been painted there, but not under the cupboard. And he made a stupid remark. I will upload this video. Just give me a bit of time. I'm going to see where I go with this first. And I want to see how their report comes, and I don't want to influence it in any way. I want to see what, because again, the housing officer said, or the environmental health officer said, the Housing Act isn't mandatory. Only certain bits of it are. And I was just like, boy, so who wrote the Housing Act then? Well, the government did.
Yeah.
There's only certain bits of it that we can actually enforce. What the fuck? It's not mandatory, apparently. And the guy's out there sort of smiling, the Saffron guy, because he thinks it's so great. And then the housing officer looks at me because he sees my phone in my jacket pocket. Are you recording this? Or have you been recording all this? Yeah. And then he left. Like, as quick as that. He couldn't get out of here quick enough, to be honest. So, but yeah, I think the reason why there's no insulation is because they've got solar panels. All the way around the windows, there's no insulation. So we've got double glazing windows. And all the bricks in that are loose underneath the windowsill and all the way around the window that allow a lot of air to come through it. And there is no insulation around the window. Apparently, when I've seen them all, they're supposed to put this insulation stuff down and around. There is none inside these windows here. So, although you've got double glazing windows in, the air just goes around the sides of it. It's incredible, really. All of that comes in and causes the place to be very cold, and it's not, you can hear everything outside. Everything. And I think this is because they've got solar panels on the roof, and they want you to burn as much energy as you possibly can. Got an immersion tank in the loft. It has 2 elements on it, and even if you heat it up, so if I turn it on, the electric doesn't work in there. Nor does one of the heaters in the end bedroom. The kid's bedroom stays around, I don't know, 17 or 13 degrees. Even when if it's icy outside, it goes down a lot more. Like I say, there's not much around the windows to protect that air comes in. When you've got all of this going on, plus the lack of insulation, uncapped chimney, so that's moisture. The stuff on the floor hasn't been painted on properly, and therefore it's rotting all of the wooden boards. You know, I think this is because they want money. If you put that on boost for 120 minutes or whatever it says in there, 120, with two elements, it will heat the water, yeah, but you'll get less than this much hot water in a bath. And then the whole thing's running through freezing cold. It costs an absolute fortune here, a lot more than you could ever imagine. That's why everyone's in thick linen. Even with the heating on, they still require multiple jumpers and jackets just to stay warm. And yeah, I think this is just because they're trying to generate as much money as they possibly can, because they've got, if the building's been empty for this long, they've had the solar panel since 20 something or other. I don't remember when they came on the roof. I wasn't here. They've obviously put loads on the grid to save for a later date. That's what I would say they're doing. And they're trying to sell it back to people. And the only way to do that, to get as much money as they possibly can, because they love profiteering off of anyone, they have neglected all of these things. I think it's to get as much money as they possibly can. And they're selling the energy at the same price as what the grid sells it for. And I did read somewhere, there is an act I can give them, but they don't like complying to acts. That's a fact. They don't comply with the acts or the legislation that government has written. Central government. It's hard because when I say government, you think council and different, but it's no. Council is a sub branch of it. Central government write the rules out. They get sent over to the council, and then the council are picking and choosing what organisations they're gonna. Which is sad, really. It's really sad, that is, to be honest. So, like I say, I'm not influencing anything, their decisions. So we'll wait and see what Paul has to. So he sees that mouldy board there. And the guy's like, no, just heat your pongs on this bit for your damp meter. And I was like, but that damp meter is only 0.2% of the volume of the room. And he was like, yeah, but we assume that if that 0.2% is dry, the whole room is. That's rubbish. That would never stand up in court. Yeah, serious? Are you sure? Well, yeah, this is what the housing guy was saying from Saffron. He seems to know an awful lot. But he knows he can get away with it with someone like the environmental health officer. And I did call them up. He has been here. He has seen the mould under there. He took photos of it. And he also took photos of the rubble that's underneath the bath. Again, same hole in the wall. You can see why they've made this place as cold as they possibly can. Solar panels. So, you know, I think that solar panels, all it is for housing associations, is profiteering. And a way to not pay a tax. They don't pay a tax when the building's empty for 6 months. But this building's been left empty for a year. And they had no intentions of fixing the problems that were here. None at all. The hallway floor keeps moulding out. So, yeah, I think they want all of this because it keeps it cold. Then the next thing is somebody else leaves. Then they get somebody else in it. They stay for a little bit, leave. Someone else comes in. They stay for a little bit and then leave.
That's good enough for Saffron, obviously.
As long, you know, they don't need to do the repairs. And I think that this is going to be costing them an arse and a leg, to be honest, because they got to redo the roof. But I think they're just going to fix it how they've done before. All of the concrete over the ridges and hip has all crumbled. It's all crumbling away. And when the wind gets quite strong, some of these tiles actually lift off from the ridge. So in certain areas, and then the other bit's ready to fall. They've got scaffolding up now. It's amazing that, really, isn't it? But that's very weird. It's weird stuff going on around here. And I think they've been trying to get into my house, but not sure what that's all about yet. Are they trying to get my phone to delete emails that I've sent to them so that they can say we don't know anything about it? Or this, and this. I don't know why they have such a need to get into the house. Unless it's to do fixes while I'm not here. This is one thing that I just can't shake, is they're trying to cover their own ass. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. And then what was it? They're looking for all these salt crystals on the wall and God knows what else. It's very weird, but Paul was more fascinated in I'm not allowed to have solar panels myself. So Paul triggered this off because apparently I've got bare wires because of a cable, just because of a cable. This is apparently bare wires, which it isn't. I've bought this. This I've bought. But he didn't want to see it, especially when he knew I was recording. That's when he wanted to get out of here. And then the housing guy from Saffron said, "Who do you think you are?" And then I was like, "Oh dear, have I got to ask Mummy Council and Mummy Saffron, have I? Whether I'm allowed to have solar panels?" I was like, "Oh man, this is just a fix because you don't want me to have solar panels because that dents your profit pot." All it seems is that it was anything that risked their money, they don't want to fix. Apparently this is bare wires, and who gave me the right to install it into the grid? This was whilst they were outside basing on assumptions. Again, what, because of cable? Because you see a cable, and then they said you're not allowed to make alterations to the property. Are you kidding me? Are you literally kidding me right now? Are you... Who do you work for? You got stocks in gas and oil, have you? Over in Russia. What is this all really about, to be honest? Yeah, we might let you have some of the energy from the solar panels, you know, because it's acceptable that you have 6 dehumidifiers running. I always say 7 because of the compressor unit, but I was doing a calculation on how much it would cost to have all of these compressors going, and I included the fridge as well, so it made me say 7, but it's 6. Anyway, if you understand a dehumidifier, it's like a mini fridge. To me, it's just like a mini fridge. Compressor unit, different things like that. You've got cold on the inside, it gets hot on the outside. It reminds me of the same thing. Condensation builds up on the back. If you've got a frost-free freezer, it turns on, off, on, off. It doesn't drop too much, but enough to melt the ice on the back of the fridge and collects in your drip tray. There you are. But, yeah, apparently that's more than enough, you know. We can have you a little bit whilst the repairs are carried out. We're going to be backdating this, are we? Backdating this to when I said that, you know, and then how long have you had the dehumidifiers for? Well, 2 when I first moved, and then they wanted to not talk anymore, you know. Then they interrupt me with something else. Ask me another question before I've even had a chance to answer it. As, you know, that's just the classic thing. But they're apprenticed. I was like saying that I did a public service, right? And they taught us a few things about this when it was a group discussion, you know, what you would look for in a break-in. And he seems to think that this window is acceptable the way it is now.
Yeah, all of them in Saffron believe that.
And you have a right to have a safe home, free of asbestos, free of lead paint, free of, you know, anyone trying to get into your property and whatnot.
Yeah, not make it easier.
And he was just like, oh, criminals aren't like that. Wait, what? Do you know how intelligent criminals are? They are intelligent.
Yeah.
Hence why they end up robbing a lot of houses before they get caught. Then the ballistics gets put up against them as to what they've done. Blah, blah, blah. The ballistics starts to add up. Fucking hell. Fucking hell.
And sometimes they are not caught at all, are they?
You've got people nodding at the time I'm saying all of this.
Yeah.
And it was little my daughter that picked up on this. That she was saying that one of the girls was nodding in agreement to you and said yes. And then was sort of put on the spot with the rest of them because they were saying no. Oh, that, like rolling up their eyes sort of thing. Like it's, you know, it's just me being stupid. Come on, you're just making a drama out of nothing. That you can open a window from the out fucking side and I'm making a drama out of it.
Yeah.
But look, you can close that from the inside, yeah, but it's got a whopping great big hole in it that has access to the mechanism. What is it so hard for you to understand here? Oh, it must be this. No, all we're going to do is just put a new lock on it. Right, okay, if that's what you're going to do. And the hole in the side of it? Well, it's nothing really. A hole
Hole in
that goes all the way through the window is okay.
Looks right, yeah.
And he said this in front of Paul, a housing officer.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is going to reflect in Paul's report.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, so I think that anyone that's going through it, my recommendation to you is always record it.
Yeah.
Just record it. Just start recording every single thing you do. Because when they start to play with you, that's then when you have a case. Now, I'm not sure it's going to help in any way, but I think then if you took them to a magistrate's court, county court, or it opens Pandora up for you to sue them. I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And I think that Saffron Housing Trust, I think it should go a lot more higher than this. I think their board members need to know what's going on. Because again, if it is, does that go against your charity? You are not allowed to profit off of people. But a property that you just let because you believe that people you're putting in there are so naive and stupid that they don't know anything. That's absolutely terrible. I can't say it's reflection for all councils, but if councils are doing this, that's not acceptable. You know, just to sort of pick and choose what they do, and you know, I think that's not acceptable either.
They're abusing their powers if they do that.
And then it makes you ask the question, doesn't it? Shouldn't all of these housing associations and whatnot pay full tax all the time? So, uncapped chimney. Should you be letting properties in this condition? Black mould, mould underneath, asbestos, uncalculated asbestos. I've already breathed the dust.
Yes.
I'm not really sure what to do about